Good morning and welcome to Unfiltered Vision News, bringing you the news unfiltered Monday through Friday, 7 to 9 a.m. Eastern. My name is Dr. Ashaki Noni Nichols, and I will be your host. Yeah, it's a little bit early for me sometimes. So sometimes I sound like, Barry White's little sister, but I am a baritone by nature. So it is what it is. But good morning, everyone. And good morning, Patty Cake. She says, Grand Rising founder. Grand Rising to you too. Hope you're doing well. I know you're getting things going this morning, getting people ready to go to school and getting ready to go to work. So, anyone out there on their way to work, praying for your travels, that you're safe. There's just a lot going on. So, I don't, it's one of those days I don't know where to start, but it is Women and Wellness Wednesday. I do not have a specific guest for today. So if you want to basically, how we do our call-ins is if you direct message me or just let me know in the comment section that you would like me to send you a mic so you can, maybe bring up a topic or a discussion that we can have today on Women and Wellness Wednesday. Please let me know and I will get that done for you. But I wanted to start with more so, I would say, a public service announcement. So let's get that going.
Said that the FBI is investigating a broader network of groups that may have had some knowledge of the shooter's plans. Can you give us any details on that, following up what you've already said in public? How's the FBI working to find other potential accomplices, folks who may have known about the shooter's plans, folks who may have encouraged him? Any update on any of that?
So in terms of what we do for an interrogation perspective, we go and reach out to the family and community immediately. And we've conducted those investigations and interrogations with local law enforcement, and we're continuing to do that because those closest to the suspect are going to hopefully know the most about the suspect and his beliefs and his ideology. On top of that, unfortunately, it has been leaked that there was a Discord chat, and for those unfamiliar with it, it's a gaming chat room online that the suspect participated in. So what we're doing, we've already done, is serve legal process, not just on Discord, so that the information we gathered is sustained and held in a evidentiary posture that we could use in prosecution should it be decided to do so. And we're also going to be investigating anyone and everyone involved in that Discord chat.
I see the public reports that the Discord thread had as many as 20 additional users. It sounds like you're trying to run down all of that to see if that's accurate, who else may have been on that thread, what they may have known. Is that fair to say?
It's a lot more than that, and we're running them all down.
It's a lot more than 20?
Yes, sir.
And you're running all of that to ground,
Every
you said?
single one.
Okay. So the reason why I wanted to bring up Discord is because, my daughter, she's a gamer, she uses it. But now, in a way, the FBI is letting us know that that's one of their sources, right? For the shooting that happened on September 10th. So now you're running in Discord. I just want people that are on Discord to just be aware and be careful that, yeah, there's yet another space. And we always know that, the FBI is there or CIA or NSA or, some type of spying going on because, we can't have any privacy anymore because that's just where we're at as a society. We do not have the right to privacy, even though we're supposed to have it under the Fourth Amendment. Again, with a lot of the technology that we use in the terms and conditions, we sign those rights away, not really realizing it that we are, but we are. And there needs to be something done about it. We need to really press our legislatures, you know, to get our privacy back. And to me, that means putting better people in office. Because right now, the people in office, they really don't care about us. They don't. I'm not gonna sit here and act like, oh yeah, no. There may be a few at your local level because you can get to their house, right? You can talk to them. They don't have security, right? Like the members of the House and Senate and everyone else. But your local, yeah, your people at the local level, they get it. They get it because they know that they're under the same tyranny that we are. So, yeah, again, that was just my little public service announcement to those out there, maybe on Discord. So, with that, oh my goodness, our next set of information that I would like to get to, this is a video that I came across yesterday, because as some of you guys know, I do watch Alex Jones, and I found this one very disturbing. Um, and I don't know if a lot of people know about it. And the reason why I wanted to bring it up is because there are some people that have children and they have Netflix. And apparently, Elon Musk, was kind of sounding the alarm on X saying, hey, um, just be careful, letting your children watch, certain programs on Netflix. But he was also calling for people to just drop their subscription altogether, like shut it down. So I'm gonna play this clip for you guys and just kind of let you decide what's going on right there, because usually most of the time Alex's videos, they preview and then he gets into his commentary and then it plays again. Now that person said their name is Nightshade. Something that he brought up in the show yesterday is that, yes, Nightshade, if anybody is familiar with pagan Wiccan practices, nightshade is actually an herb that is used in various spells. And a lot of people may be like, oh, spells, they aren't real. They are real because there are people that practice Wiccan. It is a real religion. It is a real pagan religion. Um, it just is what it is. Okay. And they named a character and this is Transformers. This is a cartoon. When I grew up, they weren't doing this, but now they are. And as you notice that their pronouns are their pronouns. Why are we talking about pronouns? This is again another form of grooming. Like this cult, they can't help themselves. They cannot help themselves. They feel the need to basically, how should I say it, force themselves upon us. And we need to push back, period. Like at this point, Netflix needs to go bankrupt. Like shut it down. Cancel all of your subscriptions. Shut them down. You can get better. I'm just saying. You can do better. Don't give your money to people who hate you and who hate your children, especially. Because this is geared towards children, not adults. They, them. Let's continue to watch. I'm non-binary. People who aren't female. Look, that is a little girl. That is a female. Period. Period. And Patty Cake says pronouns. Heck, nah. Yeah. And April Showers, thank you so much for joining us this morning. Yeah, that's what they're doing to these babies. The completely confusing them. And then we wonder why things are so messed up. Why these kids are so messed up, even without medication, because it is the social transitioning. See, a lot of people think that this is just medication. No, this right here, this is beyond propaganda. This is social conditioning. Because the more they get you used to it and you're okay with it and you accept it, you've accepted the cult. See, I push back against that stuff. People are like, well, I feel like I don't care what your pronouns are. I'm going to call you by your first name because you have a name. And that's what I'm going to call you. And I'm a traditional human being. So yeah, to me, you are a male or a female. You do not have pronouns, period. See how that works? I live in the real world, not this one that they are trying to recreate.
I'm sorry, I shouldn't have assumed.
Literal
I always
grooming.
knew my pronouns felt right, but what a wonderful word for a wonderful experience.
Of course, computers
Morgan, can you switch?
are binary.
Nightshade's pronouns are they, them.
He or she just doesn't fit who I am. My apologies. Please switch their piece.
Total grooming.
Plan.
Autobots roll out and sterilize the humans. Megatron has ordered us to sabotage life on this planet. Attack logic, attack their basic genetic system, destroy them, give them poison shots. The Autobots now serve Megatron. Kill the humans. In the last week, Elon has been on the ass of Netflix. It's totally globalist, as you know. And because the new Transformers show for kids is all about kids cutting their genitals off as Transformers, I guess the name fits. Quite the sick pun. And so myself and Thomas did a little bit of a dive on it. I wouldn't even say deep dive. We did about an hour of looking at it and found the characters are literally famous characters from Western European black magic and Middle Eastern black magic. Moloch, Lilith, Nightshade, all human sacrifice.
And those are the names that they're naming the Transformers, by the way. So when he's talking about this, he's talking about the characters that they've named in the show. What happened to Jazz? I like Jazz. Jazz was a cool little Porsche, sorry. Right? Why are they doing this? Well, the reason why is because they are trying to normalize Wiccan. That is a religion. They are trying to normalize all of these things, and these things aren't normal. They go against God. Now, if you go back to Genesis, and I'm just going to drop this in, I'm not going to drop the scripture in, but if you go back to Genesis, it will talk about the fallen angels and how they basically mated with the women, humans, right? And not only did they do that, they taught them what they would call sorcery. So all of this is from fallen angels and demons. There is nothing good that comes out of Wiccan. Nothing. There really isn't. It is all demonic. It's anti-human. The one thing that Satan hates, he hates us, which means to love less, because we have free will and he does not. He was cast down from heaven with everybody else that wanted to follow him. Okay. And their ultimate goal is to get us to destroy ourselves. Let me say that again. That's the goal, is to get us to destroy ourselves. So when we recognize that, we need to stop, take pause, and say, that's not what we're going to do.
Gods. So I said I'd get to that yesterday, but I didn't. I'm going to get to it today because he wants it boycotted just because they're brainwashing kids to confuse them with another sex. Huh. How about it's pro-human sacrifice, outright devil worship? How many times have I said if they can't convince us to bring back open human sacrifice of kids, I mean, that's what abortion is, but after they're born, give not your children the fires of Moloch, as Leviticus says in the law. If you think just try to teach kids to ruin their lives and be mutilated chemically and surgically is bad enough, no, it's open devil worship. And so they can't convince people to accept open human sacrifice of kids once they're born. Well, we just mutilate them and cut their genitals off and kill them ever being able to reproduce. Elon Musk a week ago comes out and says we should boycott Netflix because the new Transformers cartoon that's really popular with little kids Gosh, I grew up watching Transformers. As bad as that is, it's much worse. So it's not just drag queen story time. It's not just the teachers in public and private school getting all these grants to secretly brainwash your kids and put them in a file and hide it from the parents and then prepare to take them away from you. And all these states that have passed laws to do it. I told Thomas, one of our great researchers, about 3 days ago, it was on Sunday, I said, give me clips, find out about this show. What's Elon talking about? He comes to me and he says, boss, it's worse than Elon's saying. Almost all the characters of the Optimus Prime are now named after demonic gods from the Middle East and from Western Europe. And they're all gods of human sacrifice. So it's not just sterilize the kids, which is a form of Satanism, human sacrifice, destroying your fertility. It's literally a satanic exercise with all-seeing eye owls who all have demonic names, telling the little kids in the show, don't tell your parents, but we're going to transform you. They, them. So I'm here to announce to you, this is way worse than Elon Musk even said. Elon Musk urges Netflix users to cancel subscription over new cartoon.
And so what this says, it says, in the occult, nightshade is a powerful and poisonous plant associated with witchcraft, like I said before. The underworld and transformation, particularly the goddess Hecate. It was believed to induce altered states of consciousness for use in flying ornaments, serve as an offering to spirits, and offer spiritual protection. The plant's inherent danger and toxicity cemented its place in folklore and magical practice as a symbol of both death and renewal, as well as a tool for assessing other realms. Yeah. Why would you name a character that for children? Because, see, as human beings, we are very powerful, a lot more powerful than we think. We carry energy and frequency. And with our energy, we can invoke things. The more we speak upon them, the more we enhance and heighten them. Yeah. And them wanting to destroy the innocence of children is just disgusting. You know, Patty Cake says, Transformer is my son's favorite show. He asked me to renew my subscription to Netflix so he can watch the new series. I didn't know this information, but I'm protesting Netflix for another reason. I dodged a bullet. Well, I'm glad I could help because, I don't want anybody or anybody's children to be subjected to this. But, Patty Cakes, you can go on YouTube and you can look up the old series of the Transformers, like the 80s version. It's a little grainy. I know. It's a little old. Even, you might have to be careful the ones that they did in the mid 90s. I would watch it first, do a screening yourself. But they came out with a 3D version of Transformers that was out there. I would say 1994, 95, because I actually watched that one too. I like animation and cartoons. So definitely you can check those out. But those are the areas. But isn't this crazy, guys? This is weird. So when you see things from Elon Musk, really passionate about it, as Alex Jones said, his son, Elon's son, he sent him to an exclusive private school and his son came back mutilated. They, sterilized him and made him believe that he wasn't a man, that he was a girl. So they're after everybody. Everybody.
And so what are the names of the different characters? We'll get to that. One of them is Nightshade, which is witchcraft, or the drug witches use when they ride the broom. They hallucinate and sex magic, put the broom between their legs in a circle, and have orgasm after orgasm, becoming demonically possessed like voodoo. Not like voodoo. Yeah, the Europeans were doing the same thing. The Africans doing the same thing. Never even met each other until the last 500 years, but doing the same thing. So it continues on. But look what happened to Netflix stock once Elon came out against him. That's the power of the people.
Yeah.
So let's play these clips. Transformers exhorts the virtues of being non-binary. In what world is this appropriate for children? This is brainwashing kids at a vulnerable age. It's far beyond that. Then it gets worse. Transformers Earth Speak. That's the name of the show. Earth Spark, a show for children on Netflix, also promotes the use of made-up pronouns, they, them. Parents, this is what your children are watching. Cancel Netflix. And then it gets into the creatures that all have demonic names. They're not just non-binary. And they got rainbow wings and rainbow flags. Oh, and I forgot. The upside-down cross. Look at this. It's yellow and white, but look at that. Upside-down cross on the chest. It looks just like Moloch, doesn't it? Who they would sacrifice children to. You'd have a burning altar in front of him. Nightshades are strongly associated with Greek goddess Hecate, goddess of magic, witchcraft, and the crossroads. We meet the devil at the crossroads. Hecate is a three-spirited goddess. Three-spirited. You hear that in the whole LGBTQPS. Appearing in three forms and ruling over three realms. Hecate.
Now, it's interesting how they used it in a set of three, like the Holy Trinity. That's a demonic trinity.
Then you have the drug nightshade, hallucinations, likeness, and the sensation of flying. The women with the brooms, masturbating with the broom between their legs. That's why the witch and the broom. And the occult nightshade is a powerful, that's the name of one of the characters, and poisonous plant associated with witchcraft, the underworld, and transformation, transformers, particularly the goddess Hecate. New documents. Gender science was shoddy, but pushed chemical changes on kids anyways. It wasn't shoddy. They knew what they were doing. Meanwhile, Harry Potter star Emma Watson says young people feeling pressured to get married is violence and cruelty. Yeah, anti-Charlie Kirk. I think it's such violence. Yeah, don't have kids. And it's such a cruelty on people, especially young people, I think, especially women, to make them feel like they have no worth. No, they'll feel worthless later. Or they haven't succeeded in life because they haven't forced to culmination something that I just don't think can or should be forced. We don't attack women don't have kids, but you're saying don't have them, Gloria Steinem and the CIA. So here's a couple clips from the Transformers Devil Worshipper program on Netflix.
Morning. Can you switch?
Our binary.
Nightshade's pronouns are they, them.
He or she just doesn't fit who I am. My apologies. Please switch their piece.
Total grooming.
The plan.
Autobots roll out and sterilize the humans. Megatron has ordered us to sabotage life on this planet. Attack logic. Attack their basic genetic system. Destroy them. Give them poison shots. The Autobots now serve Megatron. Kill the humans. The receiver from the state is coming here tomorrow.
Yeah. And Dr. C says depopulation in full effect. Exactly. It is. I'm going to sneeze. Oh, excuse me, guys. But yeah, that's what it all comes back to, is depopulation. Because see, if I can get you to, turn yourself into a eunuch, right? Where you can no longer reproduce, humanity wipes itself out because we all have something called free will. We have choice. We have free will, and we have to respect it. We truly, truly do. Oh, Uncle Coolwater, thank you so much for reposting the stream. Yeah. So sad that they are, you know, gearing this towards children. But then again, are you shocked? I'm not. It's it's who demons are, and it's what demons do. We live in a spiritual world. That is why the Bible says that um our struggle isn't against flesh and blood. It's against the principalities around us. It's spiritual principalities. Because we are eternal beings. We do have souls. And we have to fight so our souls are not lost. And with that, I'm going to take a quick break. And thank you so much for joining us here on Unfiltered Vision News.
All sides has.
And we are back. Thank you so much for joining us here on Unfiltered Vision News, bringing you the news unfiltered Monday through Friday, 7 to 9 a.m. Eastern. My name is Dr. Ashaki Noni Nichols, and I will be your host. And Uncle Coolwater says it's really time for us to go off grid, create our own communities, self-sustaining, and a wall of protection to protect your homestead or compound. Not wrong. Not wrong. You are right, sir. Yeah. Yeah, as I say, get to the proper rural areas. If your family can afford it, buy a few acres of land and create your compound so that you are all together and creating that sustainable environment, knowing how to grow your own food, cultivate your own food, whether that's chickens or goats or cows or whatever, what have you. It can be done. Don't ever say that it can't. The only thing stopping you is you, right? Right. We don't get to sit back and say, oh, God help me. And God gives you all the resources and you don't do anything with it. Stop that. All right. Nobody gets to sit back and whine, but we do get to move forward and achieve. So let's try that. All right. So this next article that I wanted to share with you guys was something that I learned about. It was like I had just went on vacation. I was like, really? This happens right when my vacation starts. So the U.S. Department of Education, AFPI, TPUSA, Hillsdale College, and over 40 national state organizations launch America 250 Civics Coalition. I don't know if you guys have heard of this or not. So I will read the article in a moment, but I'm going to now bring up the video that talks about this, and then we'll go over the article.
American education was once a shining light, guiding generations. Built on faith, heritage, patriotism. But over the past 60 to 70 years, that brilliance has been dimmed. A great institution has been crumbled from within, overtaken by those who teach hatred for America, false revisionist history, and division.
From fundamentally transforming the United States of America.
Now, on the 250th, to guide our students and our nation into a brighter American future.
And nothing will stand in our way because we are Americans. The future is ours.
Okay. Yeah. So that is the plan. That's the plan. And it says the U.S. Department of Education, alongside the America First Policy Institute, Turning Point USA, Hillsdale College, and more than 40 leading national and state-based organizations today announced the launch of the America 250 Civics Education Coalition. This landmark initiative is dedicated to renewing patriotism, strengthening civic knowledge, and advancing a shared understanding of America's founding principles in schools across the nation. The coalition announced a Constitution Day, builds upon the Trump administration's commitment to celebrate America's 250th anniversary next July. With oversight from Secretary of Education Linda McMahon and the department, the AFPI led coalition will spearhead nationwide initiatives to engage students, educators, and communities in conversations about liberty, citizenship, and America's enduring values. And Uncle Coolwater says, but even back then, the American education system was nothing but a brainwash system and not truly preparing American children for the future of America. You are not wrong, sir. I've got more. Look, I've got more. But I wanted to start here because I find it very fascinating. They fussed so much about grooming and about how the LGBTQ, they've come into the schools and they've done all this warping and brainwashing of our children in the school system, but now you've come in with this. Have any parents out there even heard of this? I don't know. Patty Cakes, have you heard of this that's coming? Right? You have children that are in school. I have a grandson that's in school. I haven't heard about this. And this was, it was announced on the 17th. So obviously it was a few weeks ago. Like I said, I just went on vacation. And so it was like, yeah, I've got to cover this. My husband actually found it and he was like, you have to cover this on your show. I was like, absolutely. I will be covering this on my show because here's the thing. The Department of Education has always been basically a funding source, right? Which that's what it's supposed to be, a funding source for the states. So if the states need any, assistance beyond what their state can give them, they can come to the federal government to make sure that they have the resources, right, that they need to give a quality education for those children or young adults in their state. It's what it's supposed to be for. But now they're implementing an educational coalition. I want to vet this. I wasn't asked. You're just going to force this on us because that's what this is. You're just going to do it. Nobody asked. Who asked for this? Did you ask for this? I didn't ask for this. Then why is it being forced upon our children? Good, bad, right, wrong, or indifferent. You don't force us. That's my issue. I had the same issue with the whole CRT thing, and people might get upset. I don't care. Stop forcing things on us. If we want it, you give it to the parents first, and you let the parents vet it. And you allow the parents the choice to say, hey, I'm okay with this, or I want to opt out. Are you really giving parents a choice? And I don't see that in here. It says, as America approaches 250 years since its founding, we are proud to announce this coalition to ensure every young American understands the beauty of our nation and is equipped with the civic knowledge required to contribute meaningfully to its future, said the Secretary of Education, Linda McMahon. A country cannot survive if its values are forgotten by its people. More than ever, we need to restore the vitality of the American spirit, and this coalition will take bold steps to educate, inspire, and mobilize youth toward active and informed citizenship. Again, that sounds fantastic, I guess. But what are the contents? What is this? What are you going to say? Because I haven't seen it. And riddle me this. Thank you so much for joining us this morning and reposting the stream. It says AFPI is proud to stand with the Department of Education and partnered with over 40 best-in-class organizations to form this coalition. Who are these other 40 organizations? Right? And there are some people that don't agree with, they don't want to be along with TPUSA or Hillsdale. So is it even a well-represented coalition? Or is everybody in this coalition in a bubble? I'm just asking, because it hasn't, I don't know. I guess I gotta look more into it. Said the interim president of America First Policy Institute, Greg Sindelar. Together, we are building a movement. Okay. That will ensure the next generation understands America's founding principles and carries them forward with confidence and pride. Okay, now the founding principles are very subjective because not everybody got to benefit in a certain way. So if you're going to just tell the truth, okay, you're going to tell the truth about what happened with slavery. You're going to tell the truth about how people twisted the word of God to justify slavery. You're going to tell the truth, right? You're going to tell the truth of how the Constitution really came to be. You're going to tell the truth about Frederick Douglass, right? Are you really going to tell the truth? Because the truth is ugly, it hurts, it burns, and it stings. Or like everything else, are you just going to gloss over certain things so people don't feel bad? That's the question. Because see, you keep putting a Band-Aid over a pustule that's bursting and is infected, acting as if that's going to heal it. No, you got to rip off the Band-Aid. You have to get to the infection, and then it will heal. Our country has been infected for a long time. We are very dysfunctional. But nobody wants to have the hard, difficult conversations to actually get to a place of common decency and understanding. So we'll see. But I wanted to bring that up and bring that to you, that this is happening in our country. Now, we're going to go into the next phase of this wonderful conversation that I want to present to you guys. Now, this is an individual. His name is Alex Newman, and he's talking about the educational system, right? What we have in place today. And he also references the United Nations and how they play a role in this, and just the unfortunate, I would say, state of our educational system. We all know it's bad, but I think with some of the things that he's said, and I did a little bit of research just to pull up some of the people he's talking about, so that he's referenced, so I can show you, like, this is who he's talking about and this is why. But I needed to set the stage for it first. So here you go.
Fallen education system is literally teaching doctrines of demons And the first guy who even proposed that the government ought to be educating our children admitted that he was getting his ideas from spirits that he was talking.
Target for 5 years has a whole section on black magic for 5-year-olds.
This is everywhere, Alex. The lady who is the leading luminary behind social emotional learning, which is now ubiquitous. It's the main thing happening in government school classrooms across this country. I've got her on video admitting that she's getting her ideas from her friend who she says, I hate to say she's passed because I talk to her every night. She comes to my council table. So let's just say she's in another dimension.
Well, let's remember, Lucis Trust at the UN with its chapel is dedicated to Lucifer, and it does the publications, and they are literal Luciferians.
Alex, listen to this, okay? The UN has what they call the World Core Curriculum. And the guy who wrote it, he was Assistant Secretary General of the UN, Mr. Mueller. And he says in the teacher's manual, in the foreword of the teacher's manual, that this whole program is based on the teachings of Alice Bailey, the founder of the Lucifer Publishing Company, and the Tibetan teacher Jabal Kuhl, who is not Tibetan, is not a teacher. It's a spiritual entity that Alice Bailey claimed to be channeling. And
Hitler was into that in Blavatsky.
Absolutely, the Theosophical Society. And so when Charlie Kirk was talking about a spiritual war, I think a lot of people who aren't deep into their Bibles just hear that and think, oh, okay, yeah, good versus evil. Yes, it's literally true. And
when you study it, you've got behind a lot of the Babylonian Talmud Jews that are doing black magic. They admit that, by the way. And you've got the Nazis doing the same thing. Then you have the... In the UK, Aleister Crowley and all them, it's like competing groups, but it's all the clash that Satan's creating.
Exactly, Alex. And Jesus is quoted twice in the Gospels. He says in Matthew and he says in Luke, if whoever's not with me is against me. And so it looks like, you know, we've got a satanic movement here. We've got another demonic movement over here. We've got an occult movement over here. But ultimately, at their core, it's all the same thing.
It's a dialectic.
Yes. There's two teams in this spiritual war that we're involved in. And Charlie Kirk understood this. I think that's why he was such a threat to the evildoers. He understood perfectly clearly, and he was saying it, right? Unlike a lot of famous people who sometimes know this stuff but won't say it, he was boldly proclaiming the truth. He was preaching the gospel. He was telling people that this was a spiritual war, not in the kind of like, okay, now go pray and do nothing, but in the kind of sense that, like, guys, we're up against what the Apostle Paul described in Ephesians 6 as powers, principalities, the rulers of the darkness of this world, spiritual wickedness in high.
And let's just say it. And I've gotten a lot of atheists to come to Christ through this. Call it space aliens, interdimensional, whatever you want. That's what that's what Skull and Bones is. They channel these things. Yep. They are getting, you read the Graham Grimoires, you know, ancient translations from Egyptian and Jewish black magic. I'm not taking Jews. It's all the groups who are doing it. But they're 500, 800-year-old texts. And I've read those, and in that, they literally conjure demons, kill kids, because that's the payment they want, is to get you to do bad things. And then they give them knowledge of alchemy and all this stuff. That's what this is.
Yes, it is, Alex. And to non-Christians and to people who don't know this stuff, that all sounds crazy, but it's the reality of the world. And it's not new. It's just...
Every culture ends up collapsing from human sacrifice.
That's right. And you see it everywhere, Alex. You see them doing the same things. They're sacrificing children. I mean, it was true with the Aztecs. It was true across Africa. It was true across Asia. It was true in Scandinavia. Back when they were pagans, they were sacrificing children to demons.
The Greeks?
God. That's right. And it wasn't until the gospel spread and the light of the Bible came that the pagans, including, for example, the Vikings and all the others, stopped with the child sacrifice. And of course, that is...
And then we get the Renaissance.
Yes. And the Enlightenment. And I mean, as the gospel spread and suppressed the paganism, suppressed the child sacrifice, suppressed the orgy cults and all that, you had an incredible flourishing of civilization.
Yeah, well, black folks are right when they say 1,000 years ago in Northern Europe, you were cave dwellers. Yeah, but as soon as we got Jesus, we built the space bases.
Amen.
And same thing can be for Africa, who's under demonic control.
And you see these liars saying that Christianity is a white man's religion. Christianity came out of the Middle East. Jesus was a Jew, and as it spread into Europe, it had to come into conflict with the pagan cultures of the time.
And he was like what you call Sephardic. He was a dark Jew.
Right, exactly. He was by no means a white European, as these racists would like us to believe. And all you got to do is look at what happened in Europe as the gospel spread. The Apostle Paul says in Romans 16 that God will soon crush Satan under your feet. And that's exactly what happened as the gospel spread first throughout Europe and then around the world. And the evildoers don't like that.
And Christ said, before your generation ends, this temple will not one stone. And then they laughed at him. Titus, 70 years later, destroys it.
That's right. All of Jerusalem.
And ordered the Romans, he didn't even read what Christ said, I don't want one stone on top of the other.
That's right. That's right. Everything
word for word what he said.
Everything Jesus said came true, and everything that hasn't come true yet is going to come true. You can take it to the bank more than anything.
And they found the scrolls. That was published decades before Titus did it.
That's right. That's right.
To the word, Christ said, not one stone on stone. The Roman order has still been, it's been found. He said, not one stone on stone.
That's exactly right. And he was 100% correct. And the things that were prophesied that are still yet to come are going to come. And I think a lot of...
Well, you see it, world government, mark of the beast, digital currency, it's all here.
Absolutely. And actually, that's one of the things that brought me to Christ. I was watching your YouTube videos when I was in college. I was starting to look at the Bible and realizing, wow, this was all talked about 2,000 years ago. Here we are. So I would encourage...
Well, God gives us free will, but he gives us a cheat sheet.
That's right. All you got to do is read the Bible, right? It's got the answers to all of the important questions of life. It'll tell you where this is going. It'll tell you about the nature of reality. It'll tell you about the nature of the conflict that we find ourselves in.
All right, so big picture, where's the globalists are still operating? They're in a lot of trouble, but they're not planning to go away. There's so much happening. You're really one of the top experts on this. What's currently going on?
Well, 2.5 years ago in the New American Magazine, I warned that the globalists are trying to stir up civil war, Alex, and I just heard you warning about it before we went to break.
Yeah, let's show that New York Times, the highest search rate ever for civil war.
Yeah, there are powerful forces that are determined to stir up a civil war in this country, and they're whispering into people's ears, and they're paying agents provocateurs to try to stir up hate and hysteria. I wouldn't be surprised to see some false flag attacks, maybe a major left-wing leader shot.
Well, I predicted the black college attack.
I heard you say it, and I think,
and now now they're doing it.
Yep, that's what they want desperately, Alex. They can't have all these people, Republicans and Democrats, conservatives and liberals, joining together and singing Amazing Grace and saying, let's talk about our differences. Can't have that. They've got to have Americans at each other's throat. And so I would encourage people, forget what the haters are telling you. Your fellow Americans are not your enemy. Your enemy is just what the Apostle Paul...
And to white people, the blacks are not your enemy. Yeah, there's some that are demonic and brainwashed and brought up with no parents, and those are victims of this. We have to reach out and be Christ-like.
That's right. They're held captive by Satan, is what the Bible says. And, you know, the Bible presents a very clear picture of reality. Paul calls Satan the god of this world. 1 John says that the whole world lies in the power of the evil one. And yet here he has saved us, and now we have an obligation. You know, we were in the same boat as them, right?
Be Christ-like.
We knew Christ. We were in the exact same boat.
Just like Charlie just did.
Exactly.
Yeah. So, I mean, I know they brought up Charlie Kirk a lot. A lot of people bring up Charlie Kirk a lot. Like, I actually saw a video where a church used AI to craft a message with Charlie Kirk's voice. It wasn't his actual words, but they put words to his voice and had him speak to the crowd. I was like, okay, that's weird. And that's just, don't do that. But they did that. Right. And, you know, Alex, you know, these two gentlemen, they both knew Charlie Kirk. So I guess that's why they were referencing him. But I wanted you to see that not so much to focus on Charlie Kirk, but to focus on the educational piece, where he was talking about how they're actually bringing in Luciferian type ideology within the educational space. And you wonder why our children are not, you know, doing well. This is why they're not doing well. Okay. This is why they are not doing well. But again, who's allowing this? That's the other part, right? As a parent, you're usually trusting that, you know, I can just send my kid to school and they can just learn, you know, the foundations that they need, reading, writing, arithmetic, and not really look at the spiritual impact of their lives, because that's my responsibility, right? As a parent, to nurture them on the spiritual path. And it's just the educational system to educate them. But the problem has become they have taken that away from parents without the parents' knowledge and injecting that into the learning. Yeah. These are the things that we don't see, that we always have to question. So, there were certain things that he talked about. He talked about the Lucius Trust. So the Lucius Trust, formerly known as the Lucifer Publishing Company, is a nonprofit service organization incorporated in the United States in 1922 by Alice Bailey and her husband Foster Bailey to act as a fiduciary trust for the publishing of 24 books of esoteric occult philosophy published under the Alice Bailey's name, and to fund and administer activities concerned with the established of right human relations. These include the Arcane School, a school for esoteric training, World Goodwill, Triangles, a lending library, the Beacon magazine, as well as the publishing company. The objectives of the Lucius Trust, as stated in the charter, are to encourage the study of comparative religion, philosophy, science, and art, to encourage every line of thought tending to the broadening of human sympathies and interests, and the expansion of ethical, religious, and educational literature, to assist or to engage in activities for the relief of suffering and for human betterment, and in general to further worthy efforts of humanitarian and educational ends. Now, I find it very fascinating because, as you see, religion was brought up a few times. But they keep telling parents, we can't have Jesus in our schools. Can't have that. Okay, we can't have Jesus in the schools, but there's some kind of religion going on. Now, the Lucius Trust is very big. And it's in our schools. It's in our schools. So the Lucius Trust Publishing Company was founded in the early 1920s as Lucifer Publishing Company. The name has been attributed to the Bailey study of theosophical teachings that Lucifer, the archangel, brought intelligence to mankind. The name was changed in 1925 to Lucius Publishing Company. It has headquarters in New York City, London, and Geneva. Geneva, Switzerland, right? The place where everything's neutral. I find it fascinating. Because he had to change the name. Because people aren't going to come if it's called something from Lucifer. What? No, nobody's going to that. Okay? No one's doing that. But I'm going to show this video about the Lucius Trust.
Trust is a nonprofit organization dedicated to furthering the spiritual evolution of humanity. Founded in 1922, it works through various initiatives promoting peace, education, and a more sustainable world. These initiatives include supporting educational programs, publishing spiritual literature, and advocating for ethical and responsible global governance. Essentially, Lucius Trust aims to foster a more harmonious and interconnected global community rooted in spiritual principles. It's a complex organization with a long history and diverse activities, all focused on its core mission of spiritual growth and societal transformation.
Yeah. Sounds a lot like when you're listening to people and they always talk about sustainability and all these other things, and I'm like, to me, it's very cultish, in my opinion. It has very cult-like tendencies, but that's where it comes from. So Alice Bailey, let's look at her for a moment. This is the woman that you saw in the videos, and this is the woman that had actually founded this. She was Alice Ann Bailey from June 16th of 1880 to December 15th of 1949, was a British and American writer. She wrote about 25 books on theosophy, and was one of the first writers to use the term New Age. She was born Alice Latrobe Bateman in Manchester, England, and moved to the United States in 1907, where she spent most of her life as a writer and teacher. Her works between 1919 and 1949 describe a wide-ranging neo-theosophical system of esoteric thought covering such topics as how spirituality relates to the solar system, meditation, healing, spiritual philosophy, spiritual psychology, The Destiny of Nations and Prescriptions for Society in General, she described the majority of her work as having been telepathically dictated to her by a master of wisdom, initially referred to only as the Tibetan or by the initials DK, later identified as Darwin Cole. Her writings bore some similarity to those of Madame Blavatsky and are among the teachings often referred to as ageless wisdom. Though Bailey's writings differ in some respects from the theosophy of Blavatsky, they have much in common with it. She wrote in religious themes, including Christianity, though her writings were fundamentally different from many aspects of Christianity or other Orthodox religions. Her vision of an her vision of a unified society included a global spirit of religion, different from traditional religious forms, and including the concept of Age of Aquarius. And Sassy Lady, thank you so much for reposting the stream and joining us this morning. So if anybody's heard of New Age and Age of Aquarius and all these other things, a lot of these things are demonic, and they do fall under a Luciferian way of thinking. They just do. It is what it is. Now, some people may not like that. Sorry, you don't like it, but it is what it is. You know, these people, they infiltrated our educational system, and it's evident because it was very easy for the LGBTQ to insert themselves within the educational space. Very easy. They got prayer out of the schools. No more discipline in the schools. Gone. No prayer, no discipline. LGBTQ came in. Now we've got a whole generation of children that are unfortunately very messed up. And we're left behind with the shrapnel to pick up the pieces. And I know we can. I know it's doable. But it is what it is. We can no longer allow evil. When we see it, we need to call it out for what it is. And we might look crazy calling it out. But hey, look, that's why I started my own show. I was like, look, I got to call all evil where it is. I'm not going to sit back and just say, oh, well, it's not my job. They can fend for themselves. I need to tell you this information. And I'm so grateful that, Patty Cakes, got something out of what I was sharing earlier, because these horrible individuals are after our children. Have you ever watched movies and wondered why they always, they kill off the adults and they keep the children? Because they can mold the children and who they want them to be. That's why. That's the reason. And that's what's happening in our society. And we need to stand up against it. So we're going to take a quick break. And when we come back, of course, we're going to get into a little bit of politics. But thank you so much for joining me here on Unfiltered Vision News. And we will see you on the other side. And we are back. Thank you so much for joining us here on Unfiltered Vision News, bringing you the news unfiltered Monday through Friday, 7 to 9 a.m. Eastern. My name is Dr. Ashaki Noni Nichols, and I will be your host. And so a little bit about what I want to say Alex Jones and Alex Newman were talking about. They mentioned Civil War, like briefly, like kind of skirted over it. Right? We're in a Civil War. Okay. Well, there was somebody else also talking about Civil War. I wanted to bring that up.
Tell us about the sort of the collective health policy you're putting together with the West Coast states. So over here, you guys, what do you call this? You call
the West Coast Offense. It's a Western Alliance.
The Western Alliance.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, Western Alliance. Sorry, I didn't mean to take it off stage.
Pause.
Okay, and of course this is something Alex came across. But I really just wanted to play just that part because that video is pretty long. But I'll post a link to it. But the reason why I wanted you guys to see that, I don't know if you've heard of the movie called Civil War. You watch it, it's a documentary, and they talk about the Western Alliance. They also have individuals in that movie saying, what type of American are you? Okay. I don't know if you've kind of heard people and kind of rumblings and, just listen to people in the way they talk because they'll be like, are you an American? Well, what kind of American? Right? Are you naturalized? Are you a born citizen? Are you an American that actually abides by the Constitution? Or are you just calling yourself an American? These are things we need to definitely look out for. But so I say, as everybody's homework, watch the movie Civil War and look out for the term Western Alliance. It means a lot. And I also want you to start listening for that type of rhetoric, whether it be online, whether it be in speeches from different individuals. Again, right now, Gavin Newsom's talking about, oh, yeah, it's the Western Alliance. What? That was in the movie Civil War. What are you talking about? Yeah. Things do not happen by chance. It's called predictive programming. They've already shown us what they want to do. The question is, are we as the American public going to allow them to carry it out? That's what it comes back to. Definitely. Now, I want to get into, before I get it back into the shutdown, and that's some information there. I want to get into Brandon Johnson because he has written a proclamation and an executive order for his city. But let's check this out.
Also signed today by Chicago's mayor in reaction to some of the increasing ICE activity.
It is an effort that hasn't stopped the federal push into the city. WGN's Emmy Victor has details on this developing story.
In light of increased immigration enforcement in Chicago, a new executive order signed Monday by Mayor Brandon Johnson designates ICE-free zones within the city.
City property and unwilling private businesses will no longer serve as staging grounds for these raids.
The order prohibits ICE agents from using city-owned property to make arrests. Johnson says signs will be posted at city properties, including in the parking lots of Chicago public schools and Chicago Park District field houses.
The fact is, we cannot allow them to rampage throughout our city with no checks or balances. Nobody is above the law. If we break the law, you should be held accountable. If Congress will not check this administration, then Chicago will.
This is the third executive order issued by the mayor since the Department of Homeland Security launched Operation Midway Blitz in the Chicago area. Each has tried to limit ICE from operating in the city. Since early September, the agency has reportedly arrested nearly 1,000 people. They've also been involved in 2 shootings, including one in Chicago's Brighton Park neighborhood on Saturday. Johnson has repeatedly said that Chicago police will not coordinate with ICE during its operation here. In a statement, DHS blasted Johnson over the weekend's events, saying in part, just this weekend, he and Governor Pritzker refused to allow the local police department to give our officers backup at the scene of a law enforcement attack. A growing and violent crowd began throwing rocks at our law enforcement, yet their chief of patrol ordered their officers not to help. DHS is referring to a rumored internal CPD memo circulating online, indicated that the chief of patrol told officers responding to the Brighton Park shooting to stand down. Speaking to reporters this afternoon, CPD Superintendent Larry Snelling disputed the notion. He said not only were his officers on scene for hours, but they were even hit by tear gas.
Those who will tell you that our officers weren't there, say that to the 27 officers who were affected by the chemical agents that were deployed by federal agents.
According to Snelling, none of the officers who were hit by tear gas were seriously injured. He also says he's spoken to Homeland Security officials about how both agencies can work together when CPD is responding to an incident where federal agents are involved. Reporting at 35th in Michigan, Emmy Victor, WGN News.
Now, I actually watched another video of that of the officer, the chief of police, and he basically broke down and said, "Look, the federal agents, they have their marching orders, but we unfortunately have to abide by the policies of the city, right? That are contradictory." And he basically stated, if people go after these federal agents, and he did mention the person that tried to ram federal agents with their vehicle. He's like, we can't help you when you do that. If you threaten them with your vehicle, we cannot help you when you're engaging in unlawful activity with federal agents. That's no longer our jurisdiction. And that's the point he was making, right? They have their laws that they have to follow, and we have ours. But they have been ordered to stand down, and it is very unfortunate. So I wanted to read through a little bit of this executive order. And it says, whereas the city of Chicago is committed to ensuring the safety, dignity, and human rights of all residents. Now, you see that they don't call them citizens. They call them residents, right? Because citizens would mean that everybody's here legally. But residents can be anybody, right? Regardless of race, religion, immigration status, or national origin. And whereas civil immigration enforcement activities have historically undermined community trust, spread fear, and created barriers to accessing essential city services, and during the past month, federal agents have used Chicago Public Schools parking lots, a city-owned parking lot in Harrison, Kedzie, and a city-owned vacant lot at 46th and Damon, among other locations, as staging sites for civil immigration enforcement operations in surrounding areas. And whereas Chicago has long recognized that public safety is best achieved through trust and collaboration between residents and local government, not through the militarization and deputization of city resources in service of civil immigration enforcement. I'm going to stop there, and I'll give you the link. But here's the thing, Mr. Johnson. When you are harboring illegal aliens, that is a violation of Title 8, Section 1324. That is a federal law you're breaking. When you are actually harboring people there illegally that are to be deported, and you're protecting them with your ordinances, you should be in prison. Okay? So should Pritzker. So should Kathy Hochul. So should Eric Adams. So should Gavin Newsom, Karen Bass. I forget the name of the Portland governor and mayor, but yeah, those individuals too in Oregon. Okay? And we can continue on with this, but when you harbor illegal aliens, and then when you infringe upon stopping federal agents from doing their job, that's Title 18, Section 111. That's another federal violation that you are guilty of, period. You should be in prison. You cannot policy your way out of this. Now, I was online last night, and a lot of people had a lot of different takes on what should be happening, right? With the immigration. There's like, DEA is there also to get people's that have warrants. So many of these people, it's not just people that are here illegally. It might be people that are United States citizens that have outstanding warrants. Because it's not just ice on the ground. Okay. But at the end of the day, you decided to keep these people. And they also brought another thing up. It's like, okay, Texas bused these people to Illinois. They sent them there. Were you selling Illinois up for failure? So you send them to Illinois. Okay, you send all these illegal people there. You know, the state of Illinois puts them in Black underserved communities, right? Okay. All right. And now it's a problem. But now, are Black people getting caught up into something they shouldn't even be a part of? And whose fault is it? Because I really don't see a lot of Republicans actually doing anything to fix it. Now they complain about it. It's like, well, we've sent, ICE. Now you could have did something about this beforehand. Before you had to send ICE, you could have fixed this. But you don't want to fix the border. You want this to be an overarching problem that we all have to deal with. You need to stop lying to us. And Dr. C says mayors can issue executive orders. They can write all the executive orders they want, but federal law will trump their executive orders. That's the thing. He really doesn't, how should I say, it's very symbolic. It is. It's symbolic. Saying, well, you can't be here and you can't be there. They unfortunately override you. Because all they have to do is call an emergency. Now, they're being taken to court again. Guess what? Gavin Newsom took Trump to court and he lost. So you guys are trying to use lawfare. You're losing. But here's the thing. At the end of the day, where's the Republican Party to stop this, to shut this down? You guys were acting like you were so helpless. You at the House, Senate, and the executive administration. And a lot of people, again, will say, well, hey, we're using ICE. We're using all that we can. You're not doing enough. Because you really don't need to bully your way and do this. There's another way to get people really up off the soil. And you could have done it a long time ago. You refused to do it. And now you're leaving us to, deal with the nonsense. And it's disgusting. And you need to fix this. So now I'm going to get into an exchange between Abby Phillips and Scott Jennings. I don't get into too many their banters back and forth. And this was a few days ago, maybe about a week ago. But it was talking about the government shutdown and who benefits and who doesn't.
About who's going to get taxpayer-funded Medicaid in this country. That's what the memes are about.
Oops, hold on. Let me try that again.
Democrats want to make it about this subsidy issue. They don't run out to the end of the year, by the way. But the real thing is they filed legislation to repeal what the Republicans did this summer. And so these two issues have been conflated. But the fact is they don't just want the subsidies. They want other things. And the president is drawing attention to it, I think, in a pretty clever way. We just had a national emergency about telling jokes. I don't know why people
still
can't take
not
a joke.
going to illegal immigrants, Scott.
It is. It really does.
It's not.
It really does.
So
it does in several
not,
blue states.
Scott, no, it's not.
It really does.
Listen, the part of the bill that deals with the money that goes to states, it doesn't say anything about their immigration policy. So red state or blue state, those states are getting less money from the federal government. That still has to be dealt with. And that has nothing to do with immigration. And again, Medicaid does not go to undocumented immigrants. SNAP does not go to undocumented immigrants. CHIP does not go to undocumented immigrants.
It absolutely does.
I don't know. I mean, Scott, Prove me wrong.
How many blue states?
Show me the law.
How many blue states? Mike Johnson showed it.
Scott, show me the U.S.
in a gigantic poster on
Show
Friday.
me the U.S. code where it says that they're allowed to get Medicaid funding.
I will put it out on social media
It
after
doesn't.
the show,
It doesn't
and I will be
exist.
right, and you
In
will be
fact, the
wrong.
law says
And I will be
exactly
right.
the opposite. So
They're trying to repeal what the Republicans did this summer.
Scott, that is a lie. Okay.
It is not.
Now you might want to dispute whether or not states should get reimbursed from the federal, or should get federal dollars for Medicaid at the levels that they got it before. That's a different issue. But that's not an issue that's actually tied to immigration, and you know it. But go ahead.
That's very interesting. She's like, show me the proof. Show me where it is. Like, all right. Okay. Sure, Abby. So there's a memorandum, Democratic plan to fund health care for illegal immigrants. So the Working Families Act signed into law by President Trump contains the most important America First health care reforms ever enacted. The policies represent a comprehensive effort to address waste, fraud, and abuse, to strengthen the health care systems for the most vulnerable Americans, ensuring the taxpayer dollars are focused on American citizens and do not subsidize health care for illegal immigrants. So Democrats are demanding these reforms be replaced as a condition of keeping the government open for 4 weeks. This would result in the federal government spending nearly $200 billion on healthcare for illegal immigrants and non-citizens over the next decade, nearly enough to fund the entire children's health insurance program, which they refer to as CHIP, over the same period, all while repealing reforms that strengthen care for the most vulnerable Americans. And we talk about the most vulnerable Americans, like I have an aunt that has cerebral palsy, that would be her, right? She no longer can walk for long periods. I mean, outside of going to the bathroom or maybe getting back and forth to her chair on her own. But that would be some of our most vulnerable, right? Or children that need the assistance from their parents, right? They're wheelchair bound. So the Democrat funding proposal spends enough on healthcare for illegal immigrants and other non-citizens to attend the entire CHIP program for a decade. So their CR wants to spend $193 billion. But people go, well, Democrats, they keep Democrats saying, we're not trying to fund illegal, but you are. I actually went over this the other day. It's really, really crazy. And You Permit says they refuse to give repair to Black Americans, to the Black American community, but will fight for illegals to get funding. Yes, exactly. But again, that is to get us on the ground fighting with one another when it's a representatives in government, right? I don't necessarily really blame the person that's here illegally because they were allowed to come over here. I don't blame them. I blame the politicians that have allowed this and set this upon the American people, especially those in the Black community, because they are always in our community. They've been given businesses in our community to siphon the money in our community, right? If you're going to the corner store and it's owned by somebody else, you don't think anything else of it, right? You're just like, okay, I'm just going to go. But if all of the owners don't look like you, don't live in your neighborhood, why is that? When you have people that actually want to own businesses in the neighborhood, but they can't get the business licenses to do it. Why is that? What are you doing? If you have more Black Americans per capita in a city and you have more per capita individuals that are not Black Americans that own businesses, there's a problem. Why are you shutting Black Americans out of running a business in their own community and actually serving in their community, right? What's the problem? What are we talking about? So the WFTCA takes comprehensive approach. Okay, so this is more about their work stuff and ending enhanced funding emergency care to illegal immigrants. So closing the California loophole. California utilizes an egregious loophole since employed by several other states to draw down federal matching funds used to provide Medicaid benefits for illegal immigrants. The WFTCA closes this loophole through nearly 80% of federal savings and are derived from ending California's exploitation of past policy. Repealing this provision will result in $34.6 billion in additional federal spending that would continue to primarily be abused by California to fund healthcare for illegal immigrants. I'm telling you, Democrats, y'all just figure it out. I mean, you're just bad at this. You're either bad at this or you just don't care. I'm at they don't care. That's really, really, truly, truly where I'm at. They really don't care. And so I'm going to bring up another wonderful little video. Now, this is Hakeem Jeffries, because, of course, we got to talk about Mr. Jeffries for a hot minute. So let's get into it.
For an opportunity to have a conversation, you say, hey, okay, let's debate what this is. Let's debate the healthcare challenges that we have. I want you to listen, if you could, to Mr. Johnson's response to your challenge to a House floor debate.
When the poll says that about 13% of the people approve of your messaging, then you make desperate pleas for attention, and that's what Hakeem Jeffries has done. We passed the bill in bipartisan fashion and sent it over to the Senate. The House has done its job. I'm not going to let Hakeem try to pretend for these theatrics. I mean, this is a Chuck Schumer decision. The ball is in the Senate's court now. The House has done this. We don't need to waste time on that nonsense. Those debates have been had. Colleague's a friend. I mean, Hakeem is a friend and a colleague. I respect him, but we all know what he's trying to do there.
What's your message to the American people tonight as you're standing locked out of the Congress, unable to do the people's business for over a week now, and you have this sort of diatribe of noise from Republicans?
Okay, that's disingenuous. Stop it. Stop it. All of this stuff is with the Senate right now. The House has done their job. The House has done their job. There's nothing to debate in the House anymore. Nothing. And so this is what burns me up. Now, this is MSNBC. Complete propaganda. You need to go in there. You've been shut out for a week because they don't have they've passed it. What are you talking about? Really? But see, they will use people that look like us to get us all riled up. Oh my goodness. The sky is falling. You need to go back. Stop that. This is why we need civics back in school. I'm not down with that whole civics 250 thing. This is basic civics, right? Just basic understanding of what the House and Senate is. Okay? And how it functions and how it runs. And when you have passed something in the House, it is out of the House. There is no longer a debate. He is not locked out. He's not locked out. So stop lying to the American people. But let's continue to listen to the propaganda.
About how the Democrats, want to, give free health care to illegal immigrants when we know that's not true, because that's not what the law will allow. And people are trying to figure out what they're going to do because, hey, next week is payday.
That's right.
And there's no check coming.
Well, fighting to lower the high cost of living and trying to protect the health care of the American people, that's not theatrics. That's actually what we should be doing as members of Congress to make life better for everyday Americans, as opposed to continuing these failed Republican policies and trying to gut the health care of the American people. I'm not sure what Mike Johnson was talking about, and it's not clear that he knew what he was talking about in terms of what he was saying at that particular point in time. The Republicans have enacted the largest cut to Medicaid in American history. We know that as a result of their refusal to extend the Affordable Care Act tax credits, we've got tens of millions of Americans who are facing dramatically increased premiums, co-pays, and deductibles, including, in some places, a married couple that makes about $88,000 a year currently pays about $8,000 per year in health insurance. By the way, that's already too high. But as a result of Republican refusal to extend the Affordable Care Act tax credits, their health insurance could triple to $24,000 a year. That's unconscionable here in the wealthiest country in the history of the world. Those aren't theatrics. Those are real issues. And Democrats in the House and Democrats in the Senate are continuing to hold the line.
Yeah, but see, what he's not telling you is this. The reason why a lot of those costs are going up is because you have people here that shouldn't be here that go to the emergency room. And somebody's got to pay for it. The check is always going to come due. Just saying. Just saying. It's always going to come due. Now, yesterday, I did go over the Democratic proposal. I did go over, plenty on now, so I do. I did go over who would be covered that they consider undocumented, right? Or they have a particular status. See, they don't talk about that part. They go, oh, well, undocumented illegal people, because they've been given a status. And that status qualifies them for health care. And if they do not have that status and they are here illegally, our system says no matter what, we have to treat you, even if you can't pay for it. So the American people are still paying for this. Republicans, Democrats, I need you to figure it out. Now, Democrats don't like it because they're like, hey, we're not going to have the funding. But what's going to happen is, yeah, some of these healthcare costs are going to go up because people are going to be going to the emergency room. They just are, because they don't have health insurance. And that is going to fall on the American people. That's the bad part about all this. And they don't care. They don't. I'm sorry. And Hakeem Jeffries sounds crazy. I don't know what he's talking about. You do. You really, you don't? Okay, then you're not qualified to be the speaker, the minority speaker of the House. Maybe you need to get another gig. Because if you can't even explain it, you should have better explained it and saying, yes, what Mike Johnson said was accurate. This has passed along to the Senate. But as the Democratic Party, we are still trying to hold strong. Don't sit there and say he doesn't know what he's talking about. He does know what he's talking about. And you're being dumb and disingenuous. Like, figure it out. Like, you guys, I don't know. Is it just me? Or are all of our individuals in Congress so controlled by the people that support them, like the big money donors, that they don't even know how to think for themselves anymore? That's my take on it. That's where I'm at. So I just wanted to let you guys know, because I said, can you give me a vote count in the House that passed prior to the government shutdown? So the House passed the stopgap funding measure 217 to 212. And it gave me the breakdown of how people voted. Not everybody, but, kind of like those type votes. So 2 Republicans voted no, Thomas Massie and Victoria Sparks in Indiana, and Thomas Massie's in Kentucky. So they voted no on the bill. And 1 Democrat, Jared Golden, voted yes. So the rest of the Republicans, except Massie and Sparks, voted yes, and the rest of the Democrats voted no. Okay, so this is where you get your 217 to 212, but it's still passed. It's still in the Senate. What are we doing? There's nothing else for them to do. So nobody's locked out. You passed it. So if I see any of these videos with these weird House members that are Democrats, like, we're locked out. No, you're not locked out. You did what you were supposed to do. You voted no, because that's what you do. You don't vote anything along with the Republicans, even if it will better the lives of the American people, because you don't care. You don't care. And I don't want to hear it. You don't care. So you vote party line all the way down ballot. That's what you do. You're done. It's with the Senate. If you're not a senator, this is not your conversation. Now, what the Senate might have to do, if they decided not to pass it, this is why we're in the government shutdown, rewrite it, get some better ideas to take back to the House. And this is how it works. But that funding was only to get us to November 21st anyway. So we were going to be in this spot anyway. Really? Right before Thanksgiving? But this is what we're doing. This is what we're doing. So I said, can you give me the vote count and breakdown in the Senate? Because I kind of wanted to find out what happened there, because right now we're in the government shutdown, right? And this is said, here's what I found. The Senate rejected the bill by a vote of 47 yes, 53 no. Okay. So in terms of party breakdown, Republicans plus some cross-party allies accounted for 47 yay votes, right? The Democrats, along with some crossovers, accounted for 53 nay. So Republican-aligned yays included support from John Fetterman, who's a Democrat, Senator Catherine Cortez Masto, who's a Democrat in Nevada, and Senator Angus King in, I'm not sure where that is, IME. I have to figure that out. And they caucus, they're independent. Okay, sorry. I'm like, where are you from? That caucuses with Democrats. And one Republican, Rand Paul, who voted nay. And I knew Rand Paul wasn't going to vote for it. He wasn't going for it. Okay, so if you want to roll back the breakdown. So there were Democrats that voted along with the Republicans, but they still didn't have enough to get the yays. Now, people would go, wait a minute, don't they have the majority in the Senate? Don't the Republicans own the Senate? Apparently not. Apparently not. Because there it is, y'all. They couldn't get this passed because they don't have the votes. They don't have the support for this. So I'm wondering, like, who's pulling the strings? Because I don't want to hear it. And Mark from the Soil, thank you so much for joining us and reposting the stream. Yeah. So what are we doing? Because what do you think needs to happen to reopen the government? Right? So Congress must pass a funding bill or CR. The government can only reopen if both House and Senate pass a continuing resolution or full year appropriation bills and the president signs it. So the CR, the continuing resolution, extends previous spending levels temporarily. The appropriation bills fund specific departments like defense, education, HHS for a year. And right now, the House's version and the Senate's version are not aligned. They differ on spending levels and policy writers, especially immigration, Ukraine, and social program cuts, right? So there's a bipartisan compromise. The shutdown will only end when House and Senate Democrats can agree on a version that satisfies fiscal conservatives, moderates, and Senate leadership. So it kind of gives an overarching breakdown. So in the short term, if Congress passes a short term 2 to 6 weeks, it buys some time, but it doesn't fix the underlying fights. A real reopening with stability requires full omnibus and individual appropriation bills passed by both chambers, something that hasn't been done on time in years. So this isn't the first time we've been here. Like I said, it's been years. They've been kicking this can down the road since 2012, 2013, when they put in a measure that allowed them to do it. But a question came up last night in Spaces, and they said, you know what? And I had a question too, before I get to that. I said, does this affect quantitative easing? If you've not heard of quantitative easing, we'll get into it a little quickly. And it says, here's a clear breakdown of the government shutdown and interacts with quantitative easing and broader monetary policy by the Federal Reserve. Because I was like, what's going on? So it does not affect quantitative easing. A government shutdown does not directly stop or start quantitative easing because QE is a Federal Reserve policy and the Fed is independent of Congress and the White House. The Fed operates with its own budget, funded by interest income with assets it holds, not from congressional appropriations. So even if the federal government shuts down, the Fed stays open and operational. That's right. The Federal Reserve, that's not federal, has an act. It's not federal. They stay open. We all fall apart, but they stay open. It's interesting. So indirectly, it can influence Fed's decisions. While the shutdown doesn't halt QE itself, it can influence the Fed's monetary strategy in several indirect ways: economic data blackout, economic drag, market reactions, and liquidity, right? Current context: the Fed is in quantitative tightening mode, reducing its balance sheet after years of QE. A prolonged shutdown that weakens economic data or public confidence could delay QT or even force an early pivot toward easier policy, lower rates, or limited QE like bond support. So while the shutdown doesn't cause quantitative easing, it can create the economic conditions that justify it later. So here's the bottom line: shutdowns don't directly affect QE, but they can indirectly push the Fed towards easier policy if growth slows or markets destabilize. QE becomes a tool of last resort if fiscal gridlock spills into the broader economy. And it said, would you like me to include how Treasury market and national debt ceiling interacts with QE? And I was like, yeah, sure, why not? Treasury's role in during a shutdown. Even during a shutdown, the U.S. Treasury continues to operate in limited ways, mainly to pay interest on the national debt, manage bond auctions, handle Social Security, Medicare, and military payments as long as funds exist in the trust accounts. Okay. However, as shutdown slows the flow of new borrowing because the debt ceiling isn't usually raised during the shutdown debates, right? The Treasury must prioritize payments and delay certain outlays. So this creates short-term stress in the Treasury market, where U.S. bonds are normally considered the safest asset in the world. So the impact on Treasury yields and market confidence, right? When investors see a shutdown combined with political gridlock, the fear delayed payments on Treasury securities. This fear pushes short-term Treasury yields up, right? Less demand, higher yield. Meanwhile, long-term yields can fall if investors expect slower growth or a future rate cut. The yield curve distortion pressures the Fed to step in and stabilize the bond market if vitality worsens. So understand, our debt is kind of used against us. People bet on it. It's used like stock. People make money off of our debt. Yeah, that's how it is. So here's the connection. Quantitative easing means the Fed buys Treasury bonds and mortgage-backed securities from the market. This increases liquidity, lowers yields, and supports confidence in federal credit worthiness. So during the prolonged shutdown or debt ceiling scare, the Fed may call it QE again, but it can use similar tools: emergency repo operations, temporary Treasury purchases, or reverse QT, which is slowing down or halting the balance sheet runoff. This helps the government indirectly because it keeps borrowing costs from spiraling, even when Congress isn't functioning smoothly, right? And Coolwater says, just lets you know that the Feds are not a part of the government. They are an independent entity, which is why they can stay open while government is shut down. Pay attention, people. Right? Exactly. So debt ceiling tensions, if the shutdown continues long enough to affect Treasury cash flow, the debt ceiling becomes the flashpoint. Treasury could not run could run out of extraordinary measures to fund obligations, that would mean the U.S. is at risk of technical default where it can't legally issue new debt. In such crises, the Fed faces immense pressure to intervene, not politically, but to prevent global financial chaos. It might do this by guaranteeing liquidity for Treasury securities, expanding repo facilities by short-term treasuries, a QE move to restore trust in U.S. debt. Yeah. But this got me to thinking, who's really benefiting? Right? Who's really benefiting? So I said, what would be the best stocks to purchase right now during the government shutdown? Because this is another thing I came across from Spaces, because somebody brought that up and like, they're probably buying stocks right now. They know when the government's going to reopen. They all know. This is the game for them. It's not a game for us. It's a game for them. Okay. I need people to remember they put aside $90 million for security for Congress. You need more security? You need more security because you've caused all this rhetoric on the ground. Yeah, you've done that. So, of course, ChatGPT says, I'm not a financial advisor, and any investing carries risk, especially during uncertain political events like a government shutdown. That said, I can share strategies and ideas often discussed by analytics and investors for that scenario. You should always do your own due diligence. Well, I'm fine with that. So here are some themes and specific stock ETF ideas that may fare relatively better or at least poorly during a government shutdown, along with the risk to watch. So, key themes and sectors to consider. When the government shuts down, some revenue flows and services slow or pause, right? In that environment, defensive sectors and safe haven assets tend to be relatively more attractive. Some sectors that analysts often point to include utilities, consumer staples, gold and precious metals, right? Treasury bonds, and defense contractors. So, specific ideas, stocks and EFTs. Here are some names or ideas that analytics and measures sources have highlighted as potential benefiting or being more resilient during the shutdown. These are not guarantees, but they're just mentioning them. Northrop Grumman, and they are in defense. Newmont Corporation, they're a gold miner. Walmart, discount retailer. Utility names PG&E, Dominion Energy, and ETFs, instruments. The street suggests GLDM, which is gold mine shares, iShares, Vanguard, utilities, another iShare, minimum utility, and Vitality hedging. Some investors may use Vitality instruments or hedging during high uncertainty. So, for example, VXX or VIX short term may rise when Vitality spikes. So last night it was down. This morning it's up. Yeah. So how to approach it, strategy, thoughts, do not overcommit, blah, blah, blah. So I said, do you know stocks that members of Congress might purchase? That was really what I was trying to get to. I was like, I had to set the stage first. But it says, what public disclosures exist and where to find them? Members of Congress are required by the Stock Act to disclose security transactions over $1,000 within 30 to 45 days. The House representatives post financial disclosures reports at the clerk's office, blah, blah, blah. So we're just going to get down to it. So certain members stand out as especially active traders. For example, Ro Khanna, the Democrat in California, is reported to have made many trades with significant volume, right? Rob Bershon, a representative for Pennsylvania, has been identified as a highly active in stock trading reports. Notes he trades names like Caterpillar, CSX, Boeing, among others relevant to his committee work. An example event, Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene, who's here in Georgia, reportedly purchased stock in companies like Apple, Tesla, NVIDIA, and Palantir around the time of a tariff announcement with Drew scrutiny. Yeah. And Palantir actually has a large government contract, don't they? Yeah. I forgot to write this, but in 2024, 2025, members of Congress have been active in tech stocks like Microsoft, NVIDIA, Apple, and Amazon, among their more frequent traded names. Okay. So we got that. So yeah. So it's great because it asked me, would you like me to pull up recent trades by Congress members sorted by individual or members? I'm trying to get through this quickly. Yes, please. Great. I pulled together a short, actionable summary of recently disclosed congressional stock trades. Okay. So Quiver Quant, Capital Trades, Tickergate. So they've got concrete examples. Representative Catherine Clark, she did some PG, Procter & Gamble, Senator Hickenlooper, Quiver Quant, White House, Sheldon Whitehouse, Quiver. Yeah. Typical tickers showing up in recent filings. From the combined dashboards, you'll see recurring large household names, NVIDIA, and all these other, their techs, tech, health, large cap names. Aggregators let you click a ticker. Okay. And I'll make sure to share this with you guys. But wow, I wanted to get down. This is what I said. Recent disclosures. Here's some of the name. Debbie Wasserman Schultz. She's in Florida. She sold VLRS. So she sold part of her stuff. But there was another one I wanted to get down. I think it was this one. It says, if you want, go ahead and generate properly formatted CSV. It's not going to do the CSV, but I wanted to show when they were trading. So right now we're in October. So they were trading this stuff last month. So now this was before the shutdown. Okay. This was before the shutdown. So this person sold Procter & Gamble for $250 to $250, right? That was the value of their trade. So they sold. This person purchased into it. This Helen Cooper or whatever, Looper, they purchased Palo Alto last month, but they had to, actually disclose it by last Monday because that would have been their 1 month window. So know that we know their business, right? And then I say, who's selling Bitcoin? It says, as of October 7th, Bitcoin has experienced significant market activity, right? Sao Paulo stock, the company currently holds significant Bitcoin valued at $420 million, right? And the coin shares attracted flows. We'll have to get more into it, but I want to say Immortal, he brought this up in a space last night, basically, and he and I talked about it. It's like, okay, they're selling Bitcoin and gold is going up. So that means somebody's buying a lot of gold. But they're selling off the Bitcoin. So we'll see if there's another crash from Bitcoin, because that's going to be what's next, right? So thank you so much for joining me here on Unfiltered Vision News. And I will see you guys on the other side.